What up? What up? It's Saturday night. You know what that means.
Good night.
Have a
Oh,
conversation
there we
after
go.
dark.
Good night, everyone.
What's happening, folks? Thank you for joining us. Do us a favor, share this with 5 people so we can get them in this conversation because really we want to hear what you have to say about this tonight. For those of you who may not be familiar with what this is, it's Have a Conversation After Dark, and it is simply this. We get on here uh, somewhat late, not super late, but somewhat late on a Saturday night to talk about topics that are either taboo topics or tense topics.
Hmm.
Um, and the goal is not necessarily to give you advice. We have another show that we do that with, and we'll talk about that later. But this is just really to get people to have conversations. What we have noticed, man, is that people aren't really talking.
Yeah.
You're not talking about things. We're not talking about it in church. We're not talking about it in our homes. We're not talking about it amongst our friends. We just kind of letting things ride, and you can see the results of letting things ride.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so we're not doing that. And so tonight, tonight's topic is being able to express that your needs aren't being met.
Hmm.
So if you hear with us live, let us know you here with us live. If you are uh, watching the replay, let us know you're watching the replay.
Yeah.
My my guy, Kobe,
Good
what's good,
evening,
bro?
Kobe.
Thank you for coming through. Thank you for coming through, man. We need to. I need to catch up with you, man. Just because, man. Just for no reason. Just to, normally I see you in the halls, man, and I'm not there anymore. So we need to catch up at some point. Thanks for coming through. Appreciate you, bro. And appreciate your support, man. I see you pop up from time to time in the stuff we do on Instagram. So thank you for that. Yeah. So here it is tonight, right? We're just gonna talk about needs not being met, because here's what we've noticed, right? And for some people, this may not be a difficult conversation, and if it's not, please let us know what your secret is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
what we've noticed, at least with the couples that we've had the privilege of serving, is that we often hit a brick wall in our navigation of their goals.
Yeah.
And when peeling back the layers, it is usually somebody didn't express that a need was not being met.
Mm-hmm.
And they just reacted on the fact
Right.
that the need was not being met.
Right.
Often it's something around intimacy, but that's not always the case. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I didn't put any specific need in the description. Often it is around intimacy. So somebody is, needing more sex, or somebody's needing more attention or more affection or more whatever it is in that area, um, that falls under that sexual intimacy umbrella. But then there's some people that it falls in under the category of just overall intimacy, or it falls under the category of communication, or it falls under the category of somebody not like, I'll give you a real world example. Somebody's like, they're not making me laugh anymore.
Mm.
Did
Yeah.
you tell them that? No. Okay, so why are these conversations not happening? And that's kind of what I wanted to dig into today. If it is a difficult conversation for you, why is it a difficult conversation to let your spouse or significant other partner know that your needs aren't being met? If it's not a difficult conversation, let us know how you navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have some ways, but again, this is not really about that. So, um, is that hard for you?
Sometimes.
Okay, why is that?
I think sometimes it's hard because you don't want to make your spouse feel bad
Okay,
that you even have to that there is even a need that they're not meeting.
okay,
You don't want your spouse to feel bad. You don't know how to say it. You don't know how to broach the subject
hmm
or the topic depending on what it is. Um maybe also too, this is not my case, but I'm just thinking of things. You don't want to seem ungrateful.
What do you mean?
So if I'm pointing out a need to you that is not being met, maybe if I'm that person, I don't want to seem like you're already doing so much for me. I don't want to point out that there's something that's not being met.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just stuff I'm thinking of the top of my head.
Yeah, it could be. I see that. I guess the
Hmm.
ungrateful piece.
But I think though, for me, when I have something that I need to say to you or uh, bring up to you, a huge part of my apprehension is because I don't want you to feel bad, or I don't want you to feel guilty that I am even missing something.
Okay.
Yeah. I think yeah.
And why do you think I would feel guilty?
Um I think knowing you and knowing your thought process of, man, I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can for this woman. She's stuck beside me so long, blah, blah, blah. I think that a lot of times I wonder if you would think that if I were
Mm.
to ever bring something up. Like, see, this is another reason why I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can for her because I'm not even meeting her need in this regard type thing.
So there's a conversation we need to have then.
No, no, I'm
Why
not
not?
saying that there is a need. I'm just
Oh,
saying that if there was a need, that would
that's
that would be one of the reasons why it would be difficult for me to say.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that we see often, and it, the sexual intimacy thing is a big one, and I know I didn't put a specific need in there, but I'll go with the big one. I'll say the big three if I had to say what the big three are. that we're noticing that couples are just not having conversations about as it relates to their needs being met is sexual intimacy is one,
Mhm. Yeah.
or intimacy across the board. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
People are not talking about the fact that their needs are not being met in and outside of the bedroom as it relates to intimacy.
Mhm.
People are not talking about the fact that they have a need for connection. That is
Mm.
huge. I don't think I would be exaggerating if I said that 60% of the couples we see, they are struggling to express to their spouse the need for connection
I
in whatever area.
I think I wonder, just say I think. I wonder if that has anything to do with the person that has that need
Hmm.
for connection. One, if they even recognize that that's what it is.
Okay.
And two, um they don't want to appear needy.
Mm. I'm trying to think of some examples. I, yeah, it could be. Both of
Yeah.
those could be possible.
Yeah.
I think the first one, though, I think a lot of people do know,
Mm. Okay.
but for some reason they're just not saying.
Mhm.
Because what happens is we have to deal with the fallout
Right.
of them not saying that their needs aren't being met, and then we have to reverse engineer
And like you
to
said,
figure out, okay, what is this fallout about? Oh, this
right.
fallout is after peeling back all these layers.
Right.
Oh, this fallout is because
You're
she
feeling
want to have sex more, but
yeah.
it's not happening, and she didn't say nothing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Or oh, it's because he wants to be treated this kind of way, or he wants to feel more respected, or he wants whatever it is, but they're not saying nothing. They just
Right.
acting out.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you, and I guess I said this isn't it's not an advice show, but how do you express, for those of you who are jumping in and out, how do you express that your needs are not being met? Or
Yeah.
is that a difficult conversation for you? Number one. If it is, then that's fine. If it's not a difficult conversation for you, let us know in the comments. How do you express to your spouse, significant other, partner, that your needs are not being met
Well,
in
how
whatever area? What's up, Tabby?
hey Tabby. I would think that if they're not expressing it, it must be because it's difficult for them to express it, cuz why
That's
else would
that's
you
my
not?
assumption.
Yeah. Uh yeah, because why else would you not? If if you're okay with expressing it, you would think that it would be expressed.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Lenore, what's good? Um,
Hey Lenore.
so here's the thing. You know what's interesting? We don't do that anywhere else. At least I don't know that. I'm
We don't not express
right.
our needs
I,
anywhere
I'm
else.
thinking about the couples who are who we had a struggle with that. Right,
Hmm.
Jojo, what's good? Thanks for coming through.
What's up, Joe?
Appreciate you. Um, the couples that I can think of off the top of my head that struggle with that,
Hmm.
they are in careers, and so people. I'm give away a secret. People who sit with us, I always ask them what they do for a
Hmm.
living. And it's not because I'm just trying to find out what they do. It's not a frivolous question. I ask them what they're doing do for a living because throughout the course of our time together, you best believe I am going to take aspects of what you do for a living and apply them to your relationship
Hmm.
in for things either what to do or what not to do. And typically it's going to be what to do,
Hmm.
because often the couples who are struggling in these particular areas, they do those things every day at their job.
Yeah.
So I can't tell my wife, man, I'm feeling some kind of way because you're not meeting my need in the bedroom. But yet I can go in the boardroom and be like, you ain't doing this and you need to do that, and I'm gonna need this from you, and I'm gonna need that in 2 weeks. And you know what? I need to have a one-on-one with you because you're not fulfilling the duties that we outlined in your PMP, and we're not, we do that every day.
Yeah, I agree. We do. But I feel like if you were to come at me like that, I'd be like, wait a minute, I'm not one of your. employees, you can't talk to me like that.
But what if I didn't come at you like that? What if I just said it? Even if I wasn't barking orders or doing, coming to you in a managerial tone or project management tone,
Hmm.
I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm reacting
To your
to,
need not being met.
right.
Yeah.
So, how do you say, for those of you who said what's up in the comments, I want to hear from you. How do you tell your spouse that your needs are not being met? And maybe you can't answer that question because thankfully, praise God, all of your needs are being met. So this is not a conversation you have had to have.
Hmm.
And that's fine if that's the case. But there are a lot of people who don't have this conversation. And it is I'm going to admit, it can at times be a tense conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
I know I'm playing kind of devil's advocate in the way that I'm approaching this, but I am guilty of that.
Hmm.
I am guilty of needing something and not saying why, not saying that I need it. And I'm gonna tell you why, because the question I keep asking is why is it not happening or how do you do it, right?
So, why was it or is it difficult for you?
It because I don't want to, and you said this, I don't want to appear like I am needy.
Hmm. Yeah.
And not needy in the sense of like clingy, right? Needy in the sense of I just don't want to appear like I need that.
Mm.
I just
So,
for whatever the quote unquote man law, and listen, I wrote the book Overcoming the Man Laws because I have to overcome these things,
yeah.
right? It's real time, the book. You know what I mean?
It's
So
probably not just a male thing though.
mhm.
Maybe. I don't know. It's probably maybe not just a male thing. So is that pride?
It might be.
Hmm.
It may be a little bit of pride. It may
Mm.
be a little bit of insecurity. It may be
Insecurity. That's a good
insecurity
word.
that's masked
Insecurity.
as pride.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good word.
That's what it could
Insecurity.
be. Kobe said personally it's hard to be vocal with my needs because I avoid
Avoid
confrontation.
confrontation. That's so true. Yep. Me too.
It's something I know it's a blind spot for me and need to do better at. Yep, the
Me too.
confrontation piece. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I think I get that too
Yeah.
because I don't want to say here's another thing.
Hmm.
And we going to y'all who know us, you already know I do a little bit too much, but it's all in the name of helping somebody else. So I'm gonna be transparent. I don't when at the times when it happens for me, I also don't want you to react in a way that makes me feel worse for saying it.
Mm. Yeah, that
And I'm
makes
not saying you
sense.
do that on purpose, but sometimes you and listen, let's be honest with each other, right? Somebody will come to you and say something, and then you're at depending on the time, depending on the circumstances, depending on what else is going on, you like, dude, why? And you may not say that, but I've been around you long enough to read your facial expression. And your facial expression would be like, dude, why? And I don't want that reaction.
Mm.
So I just don't say nothing.
Well, now that you've said that, I guess I got to work on telling my
Which,
face to be quiet.
which speaks to what Kobe was saying. You don't want
Yeah.
to just don't really want to deal with confrontation. I
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a thing. I just want it to be a moment of finally I've found this moment of vulnerability, which is hard for us as guys sometimes as well.
Hmm.
I found this moment of vulnerability. I'm fessing up to you that hey, this is what I need. It's not being met, but I don't want to go through what the reaction to that is going to be.
Well, that kind of what you just said though, in all seriousness, I'm joking about it, my facial expressions, but you saying that makes me know that that's something that I need to work on as well, is being more receptive and making you feel more, giving you the space
Mm-hmm.
to express whatever it is that you need to express.
And that's it, thankfully we've gotten to a place where I even if I may initially do that,
Hmm.
that we still have a conversation at some
Right.
point.
Yep. Right.
But there are a whole lot of people,
That
hence
the
the reason I put
conversation
yeah,
never happens.
hence the reason I put the description that the
Mm.
conversation does not happen.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me recently. I had somebody tell me, you know what, and said it in front of their partner. Said, you know what, Oliver, there's some things that I I'm not saying it verbatim, but it's almost word for word. There's some things that I need. It was a woman talking. There's some things that I need from him. And there's some things that there's some expectations I have and some things that I really want to share about him and what's not happening. But I only want to do it in front of you.
Mm. So
I need
you're
a we need a third party.
so you're like the buffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
it's
get
like
that.
people don't even want to say it with their
Wow.
partner.
I understand that though. I do. I
Whatever that
understand that.
fear is, they're like, listen, bro, we not that's not a I've had more than one person tell me that.
Yeah.
Because I would give people homework,
Hmm.
right? Some of the sessions that you weren't in, I would give people homework and say, hey, these are the things we want you to do over the course of the next week.
Yeah.
When we meet again, we're going to talk about your discussion and pick apart your conversation. Couples have told me now we don't want to have that conversation.
Wow. Yeah, I get it.
We don't want to have it till next week.
I really understand that because you're you're the buffer, and coaches have a way of being able to articulate for the client something that they're not able to articulate well enough, or for it to be received well enough. So I totally get that. And it's
Yeah.
funny you would say that. I was watching a video, a clip yesterday, I think it was, of Raven Simone. Remember Raven
Hmm.
Simone?
Hmm.
And her wife. And who was interviewing her? It might have been Tamron Hall, but I don't remember. Someone was interviewing them
Hmm.
and asked them if they go to therapy. And Raven Simone said, every Saturday. We go every Saturday. Clockwork. We go every Saturday. And then she said, and then her wife said, yeah, sometimes, there are things um, that we need to have a conversation about. And Raven will say to me, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And the wife will say, okay, cool. Yeah, what is it? And she'll say, we'll talk about it on Saturday in the therapy
It
session.
happens all the I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it
So
happens all the time.
I understand it. I understand it. It
All the
just,
time.
do you not, you
I
seem like you're kind of like, man, it shouldn't be.
Well, I don't think it should be. I understand why it is,
Hmm.
but I think ultimately, if we get to the place where our communication is authentic
Hmm.
and it is devoid of frustration and judgment, we don't have to wait for the third party,
I think sometimes it is devoid of frustration and judgment,
and you still need it.
but me as the person, I still need that third party. I'm just saying, not me, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying I need that because maybe it's me. Maybe it's all in my mind.
And that's what Lenore. She's like, I plan mine. My thing is
My thing
feeling
is feeling
like
like I'm
I'm always
right.
the one with the
See?
problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And that's how I feel in Nor as well. There's
Mm,
some things that I don't say because I'm like, I don't want to, especially, and here's what happens with some couples. If you feel like you said it before,
mm. Yeah.
then you don't want to appear like, oh, here he goes again, or here she goes again. I don't want to feel like I'm
Hmm.
that person you talking about here he goes again. So it does so the conversation doesn't happen,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Jojo said, I don't have a problem expressing if my needs are not being met. After 14 years of marriage, honestly, I know when to share and when not to share. Okay.
I know
I
when
know when
he's
he's vulnerable.
vulnerable. Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. If you can get to that place where you are like, we can have these conversations,
Hmm.
they don't they don't become arguments. Here's what some couples tell me. Some couples tell me every time this we try to broach this, it feels like an attack.
Yeah. Hmm.
Or the flip side of that is every time we broach these topics, I feel like I'm being brushed off.
Mm. Oh yeah,
I've
that's
gotten
true
both
too.
sides of the spectrum,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So Lenore said exactly. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's yeah. So but here's the thing. I feel like, and I get it, the third party thing. Listen, I'm not knocking the therapeutic coaching space,
Mhm.
obviously, because I'd be knocking my profession. So I don't want to do that. And there's some people on here, JoJo, who does the same thing. I'm not saying that that shouldn't happen. By all means, utilize that. But I do feel like, to some degree, as couples, we have to get to, like, I live with you for my entire life.
Mhm.
There has to be a point
Yeah, agreed.
where this is not an issue.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, we may bring something up and then say, "Hey, you know what? Not real sure how to navigate that. Let's bring it to Oliver."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because now you've started the conversation. You come to the table with Oliver
Mhm.
with your point of view,
Mhm.
with your perspective,
Mhm.
and then Oliver can maybe help align those.
Yeah, or if you try to talk about it with each other
Hmm.
and you notice that the conversation is getting heated
Hmm.
and you're like, "You know what? Let's not argue about this.
Right. Let's
Let's
finish
just
it up.
let's finish it up
Right.
with Oliver. Maybe he can help us, see it from a different angle. We don't need to argue about it or get upset
Yeah.
with each other about it.
Yeah. Lenore said we have the conversation anyway because we've agreed that misery is
Misery
not
is
an
not an
option. I like
option."
that.
Yeah.
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 And now that takes some level of maturity.
It does. It does.
That
And
takes to do that takes some level of maturity because you're essentially saying is that we're going to have the conversation. If you get an attitude, so what?
mhm.
If you get upset, so what? We're going to have to we'll navigate it all
you know,
because we don't because misery is not an option.
here's the thing too with bringing up stuff like that, like your needs not being met or any difficult conversation. I think a lot of times we get offended too easily,
Hmm.
and we take things personally. My need may not be being met because you just honestly were not thinking,
Yeah.
along that
Hmm.
point, along down that road. You just honestly, sincerely didn't think about it.
Right.
You sincerely didn't feel you think that that would be a need of mine. And I just think that we get offended too easily. So instead of saying, man, I'm so sorry, forgive me for overlooking that or not even thinking that that would be a need of yours, or I didn't had no clue,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I promise I will try my best to meet your need. Sometimes instead of saying all of that, we'll get
We get
offended.
on the defensive. We
Yeah.
don't, as human beings, we don't want to feel like we have not done a good job.
Right, right.
We just don't want to feel like that, right? And I'm with you on that. Sometimes you just don't know, and you're not gonna know if you don't have a conversation, right? You're not gonna know if you don't have a conversation.
Yeah.
Jojo said it becomes an issue. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I can't remember. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Jojo said it becomes an issue if you have to constantly bring it up. If it if it's important to one person, it should be important to another. I agree with that, Jojo, and that's a whole nother side of this.
Yeah, if you constantly bringing it
Yeah,
up,
that's a
then
whole.
that's
That's
that's yeah,
right.
that's a whole nother story.
That speaks to a whole nother thing. Now, for me, what I was saying earlier, I if I've said it before, I wasn't necessarily meaning if I just have been saying it over and over and over again and I'm being ignored. That's a
Mhm.
different scenario.
Right.
But if it's come up like 3 years ago and things were kind of okay and then it fell off,
Mhm.
I don't want to go back and revisit it.
Mm.
And it could be for a lot of reasons. Maybe 3 years ago that was a tough thing to navigate, and I don't really want to do that over again, or whatever the case may be. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why like that. Denise, for the record, you look amazing. The skin routine.
Oh, thank you.
That's what's up.
It's the lighting.
That's what's up. And good sex.
Thank you.
That's what.
Okay, wow.
That's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? If it does something for your skin, it does.
They
Just
say it
just let
does.
you know it does something for your skin.
They say
Right?
it does. Thanks,
If you're looking a little
Lenore.
blotchy, let me take care of you a little bit. Looking a little blotchy tonight.
Moving on,
So,
people.
um, but yeah, and here's the thing, right? We avoid. Like, to go back to Kobe's comment,
Mhm.
we avoid the confrontation, and I'm not saying Kobe does this, but I'm gonna tell you that I do. I do this. I'll admit to this. We avoid the confrontation, but then we react like
Like you had the conversation.
right,
Yeah.
which in turn causes the confrontation.
Yes. I agree.
So now we right where we were going to be, well, and we might not have
We
been
might
there.
not have been had we had the conversation.
And
Yep.
that's the thing, and that's what I try to tell some of these couples. I had a couple who they literally went through this knockdown, drag out experience,
Mm.
and I'm picking apart this experience, right?
Mhm.
And as I'm picking apart this experience, I asked the woman, "What did you want?"
Mm.
You know what she said? I just wanted him to embrace me.
Aw. Yeah.
What?
Mhm.
And y'all were fighting for 4 days?
Mm.
And you could have just been like, babe, I just want you to hold me. I don't feel like you
Mhm.
hold me enough. That
Oh.
would have ended it. Went on for 4 days. I would have ended it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
That's
just, for some reason,
mm.
we can't have the conversation. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it is.
Yeah.
Jojo said she's glowing.
Am I? Thank
Hey, that's
you.
what's up. That's what's up.
Telling you,
That's
it's
I'm
it's it's this after dark lighting.
Jojo. I'm just telling the truth over here, Jojo.
Joe,
I'm
you
just trying to tell the truth.
Joe,
That's it.
y'all not praying for me enough. That's what I know.
Kobe said, "Yes, sir. I'm guilty." Yeah, man. So that's me, right? And thinking about it in hindsight, which shameless plug, 2020 before hindsight. Go grab it. Marriage math. Go grab it.
Mhm.
Um, in hindsight, I'm like, wow. If I had just said it,
Mhm.
we wouldn't have spent these last couple of hours, it with attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough sometimes. It is.
And here's what I've yet to figure out is why we do it. Because I'm telling you, well, I'm not going to say every. Most of the couples that we talk to, and you know it, most of the couples that we talk to are going through this phase where they are bidding for connection,
Right. Yeah.
but they're doing it in every other way possible except for to just come out and say it.
Yeah, so you react to your need not being met, and then your spouse reacts to
Hmm.
your reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bids for connection. I'm telling you, bids
Yep.
for connection.
Yep.
If you I'm gonna plug this since I'm talking about it. If you haven't watched Coaching Chronicles, go and watch
Mm.
Coaching Chronicles. Two of the Coaching Chronicles episodes, I'm talking to two separate couples about the same thing.
Mhm.
Just in case you think I'm making this up,
Mhm.
with couples that it's just connection and they just not saying nothing.
Right.
Two separate episodes. Both I'm talking to two separate couples about the same thing in two of those episodes. And it's just I don't know, man. I'm not sure why. And I say we because I am guilty of that too. I'm much better at it, but I am guilty of that.
Mhm.
There's some things that I, want that, I'm like, well, I'm just not gonna say nothing.
Mhm.
Now, if you can resolve in your mind that it's definitely not that big of a deal, it's not crucial, it's not paramount to, it's not one of your most important emotional needs,
Mhm.
then yeah, you could let that go. I'm all
Yeah.
for that. But if what you need,
If it's bothering you.
right, one, if it's bothering you, correct, and then two, on top of that, if it is one of your most important emotional needs, and by what I mean when I say that is if it is a need, there are certain needs that when those needs are met, you tend to fall in love with the person who meets those needs.
Mhm.
If one of those aren't being met, we got to speak up.
Yes.
You got to.
Yeah.
You got to speak up.
Mhm.
Jojo said you would be surprised. A lot of time for most couples, it could be something so minor. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm telling you.
Yep.
I'm telling you, it blew me away. And it's more than one. This has happened on more than one occasion, but it was the one that popped into my head.
Mm.
It blew me away that these two individuals literally I'm talking about everything you think an altercation would uh entail, except
Wow.
for them putting hands on each other.
Oh,
It
wow.
didn't get to that point. But the walking away and the slamming doors and the walking out and the yelling and the this and the that, for me to come down and be like, listen, what did you want?
Yeah. I just needed
I
more
just wanted him to
physical
embrace me.
affection. Mhm.
I was blown away.
Mhm.
I just and I didn't say it, but in my mind, I was like, wow,
All of
we
that.
just picked apart a 4-day fight
Mhm.
for you to just be like, hold me.
Yeah. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to be vulnerable sometimes.
It is. It is. It is.
That's what it boils down to.
It's difficult for me when my message wasn't received how it was intended. Yeah.
Mhm.
Then what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, bro. Be-
That does happen.
because that happens, right?
And one reason why it may not have been received how it was intended is because, again, like I said, we get too
Yep.
offended
Yep.
sometimes. Like we
Mhm.
have to learn to keep an open mind and try to remember this is my spouse. This is the person that loves me.
Mhm.
I love this. We love each other. We don't mean harm to each other.
Yep.
So if you keep that in mind, instead of becoming offended,
Mhm.
ask for clarification. Like,
Bingo.
babe, man, that made me feel some kind of way. Should I feel some kind of way?
Yep. Yep.
That's what should have happened if, you know, what you said wasn't received how you intended.
Yep.
That's what the other person should do
Yeah.
instead of becoming offended, I think.
No, you're right. Because you're right because we see it, right?
Mhm.
Somebody will say something, and you've been in sessions where this has happened.
Mhm.
Somebody will express a need.
Mhm.
The other person will get upset.
Right. At
Not
your
right. They
need.
won't they won't be like, "Oh man, you know what? I thank you for sharing that with me. How can I facilitate that for you?"
They get mad.
They get on the defensive.
Yeah. Defensive. Yeah.
Like you always asking for the you that whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, can
You
we just hear?
you can't become defensive and,
Yeah.
you know,
And
um
that
and
kills the conversation.
you can't like bite back at a need that
You
someone
can't.
has. You just can't.
You can't. You can't bite
It's
back at a
valid.
need. You
You may
can't.
not understand it. You may not feel like it's necessary,
Hmm.
but that is their need. And if that is a need of theirs, it's valid. Even if you don't think it's necessary or you don't know how to meet that need. Knowing what it is the first step. And then trying to understand how to meet that need, getting clarification on what all that need entails is the next step. How do you want me to meet this need? Like, give me
Hmm.
specifics. But you
Yeah.
can't shut it down
You can't
before you
shut it down.
even begin.
And you know what's fun? You know what's crazy? Part of the reason why maybe as we're trying to figure out what's the reason why we don't do this.
Hmm.
Part of the reason why we don't do this is probably selfishness.
Because you don't want
Part of
to,
the reason, not the whole reason. But we
because
just
you just want to give how you give.
want to give how I give. Don't want to I don't want to feel some I'm trying to protect how I feel about
Hmm.
certain things,
Mm.
which is to a certain degree is well and good,
Hmm.
but it crosses the line over into selfishness when you want to protect how you feel at the expense of
Mm.
providing and serving the other person, which is what you got married to do.
Wow. Yeah.
So maybe some of that, maybe some of
Yeah.
that is selfishness. Lenore said, "Is your ability to be vulnerable a reflection of your intimacy level?" That's a good question.
Is your ability to be vulnerable a reflection of your intimacy? I
You can fall on either
think
side. You can argue either one. You can argue yes or no.
I almost want to say yes, it is. I got to think that through some more, but
That's a good question.
yeah, it is. Very good question. I'm
My
thinking yes.
Yeah, my shotgun answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
However, as human beings, we have learned how to compartmentalize. So I can let's put it in like real world. So I can be having the greatest sexual experience with you. Sexual intimacy is at an all-time high, yet my level of vulnerability with you does not align with how high that sexual intimacy is for maybe a few reasons, right? We may be good in that space, but outside of that space, we're not having enough conversations that allow us to grow the other areas of intimacy.
I don't think it's that easy for women to compartmentalize. Wow. Compartmentalize?
It
Is that how I
yeah,
say it?
it's not for every woman. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think it's that easy as it is for men.
Right. But I was speaking from a man's perspective
Okay.
as it relates to
Okay, okay, okay.
vulnerability, right? Because we we can be closed off on one end and be great on another end.
Right.
So that's why I was saying I could argue both sides of the thing. But my shotgun answer to Lenore's question is I do think it aligns
Mhm.
with your level of intimacy. And no one can speak your truth and express how you should feel the way you do. Absolutely.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what that is. We weren't going to be on here long tonight. I just want to get on here and just see what people had to say about that. It is important that we're getting to a space. We have to begin to work on getting to a space where we can express this. Here's what I said, and here's what I said in the last Coaching Chronicles that just dropped on this past Wednesday. I think it was this last one. I was telling a couple that was also going through this whole bid for connection thing
Mhm.
and not saying it. And I asked them some questions. And what happened was one person was looking for the other person's involvement as it
Mhm.
relates to quality time.
Mm.
Did not ask them for it, but got frustrated when they weren't giving it. And then out of that frustration said something reckless.
Say that again.
So one person was wanted to engage their partner in a particular activity
Mhm.
for quality time. That was the bid for connection. They wanted some quality time with this person. Hey, I want you to do this with me because I love when we do
Okay.
this thing together. Never said that to the other person.
Mm.
Just started doing the thing. The other person wasn't involved. They got upset and frustrated. And out of
Oh,
the frustration says something reckless to the other person.
wow. Yeah.
And so what I said to them was, listen, you have to get to the place where you can be assertive in your communication,
Mhm.
but you cannot wait until you are frustrated
Yeah.
to be assertive
Yeah.
because your assertiveness will come across as aggression.
Right. And I mean, I think that I've heard, I think it was, I know I've done this. I know it's not right, but I know I've done this before. And I think I heard, I want to say Joyce Meyer say this as well, that early on in her marriage, when she was overwhelmed with, like, I guess maybe the kids and
Mhm.
taking care of the house and stuff like that, or if she had something on her mind that she was upset about, she wouldn't talk about it. She
Mhm.
would just like slam pots around and slam doors and stuff. And her husband would be like, what is wrong with her?
Right.
Because he had no clue.
Right.
So I think this sounds like the
It's the
same
same thing.
scenario.
Yep.
Like you're slamming stuff, slamming doors, slamming pots when you're washing the dishes when all you had to do was just
You just got to
have a
say it.
conversation.
Just got to say it. Listen, folk. Here's the thing. You got to start talking about it. Maybe we'll talk about some because this is not really supposed to be an advice show. Maybe tomorrow on Inside the Relationship at 6 p.m. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about how you have that conversation. Um, because it's one thing to tell somebody, "Hey, you need to have the conversation."
Yeah.
It's another thing to walk people through how do you navigate having those conversations. Because I'm telling you,
Mhm.
shout out to those of you who can have the conversations. That's phenomenal. But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, a whole lot of people can't.
Right.
They just cannot have the conversations. Joseph says, so if your love language is constantly met, will
Will
that
that
solve
solve
most of
most of
the
the
issues?
issues?
Um, that will solve. Well, you said
Probably.
most, so yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I,
Probably.
my answer was going to be that will not solve all the issues, but you said most. So So what the beauty of meeting the love language is that it puts you in service mode.
Right.
So if you're in service mode and for some reason the love language is not meeting a particular need,
Mm.
you're already open to facilitating needs.
Mm-hmm.
So now that person can be like, babe, and there's a thing that I tell my clients to do that involves celebration. I'm not gonna give it away because it's
Proprietary.
right. So, but there's something I have them do, and I have them actually practice saying something a certain way,
Right.
and I tell them how to say it, and I give them the framework of what that conversation should look like.
Yeah.
You should say this piece of the conversation should happen at first, then this piece of the conversation happen second, then
Mm-hmm.
you should follow it up with this thing, and then there should be an active listening response. I give them the whole thing, right? When they start doing that, they're like, wow, we didn't argue
Yeah.
when we
Yep.
talked about this the other day.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so to speak to what Jojo said, yeah, if you're already in service mode, you're already in a place where you're open
Right.
to the facilitation of your mate's needs.
Right. Yep.
So that would make the conversation a lot easier. And that's a great place to start, Jojo. Truth be told, now that you brought it up, that's a great place to start, is to determine what is the love language.
Right.
And then you guys agree to, okay, well, I'm gonna attempt to do that to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a nice foundation. That's a nice springboard to build off of. So the bottom line is we got to have these conversations. Listen, if you have needs that are not being met, you need to be able to sit down and speak to your mate about those needs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I said it wasn't advice, but I'll give you this piece of advice. You cannot approach them in a accusatory or attacking kind of way.
Correct. Definitely not.
So if there's something that I'm not getting, I can't come to you and be like, you never da 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 da. And every time now we're in war zone.
Yep.
And people pull out weapons in war zone,
Mm-hmm.
right? People put up shields in war zone. They do all these kinds of things that are not conducive to productive communication.
Right.
So you can't do that. You have to go to them a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you want to find out what that certain way is, you just watch some more of our videos. Basically, is that what it boils down to. So listen, we're gonna get out of here. It is important that you're having these conversations. If you haven't caught the other um, have a conversation after dark, they have been some good conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and they are conversations that we should be having. We should be having conversations about needs being met.
Right.
We should be having conversations about sex and sexual intimacy. We should be having conversations. Listen, here's what I tell the couples: don't leave anything to chance.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you leave something to chance, then you can't be upset if chance brings what chance brings.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you feel like it's frivolous, then hey, fine. At least you said it. Move on.
Yep.
And if it ends up being something that was a conversation that really was needed, then great.
Here's what I guarantee you, even if it's frivolous. Here's what I guarantee you: 9 times out of 10, you're gonna learn something about your spouse.
Mm,
I promise you that.
mm,
I'll bet money on it.
mm.
9 times out of 10, even if you think it's frivolous, I promise you're gonna learn something about your spouse.
Mm.
You're going to
Okay.
learn something about their perspective. You're going to learn something. You either going to learn it. It's up two sides of the spectrum. You're either going to learn something that is 1,000% paramount to the success of your relationship, or the other side of the spectrum is you're going to learn something about their perspective that you didn't know before.
Mm.
And even if it's not something that's paramount to the success of your relationship, who doesn't want to continue to learn their spouse? You should want to, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have these conversations. So that's it. We out of here. Listen, I'm going to say this again for those of you who are not, who you're my Facebook family, our Facebook family. We would love to have you over on YouTube. We are building our YouTube community. I'm telling you, it's some good stuff over there on YouTube. We have Inside the Relationship. That's coming up tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Every Wednesday, there is a Coaching Chronicles. Those are the two new series. We got another series coming up, and that doesn't include the plethora of other videos that are there.
Yeah.
The Hey Girlfriend series of videos, the Overcoming the Man Laws series of videos, the Short Tips for a Long Marriage series of videos. All in all, there's probably 250 videos, 230 videos for your viewing pleasure. And it's not frivolous stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you can take that will be conversation starters. It's tips that you can take that will be things that you can implement right then and there and you can try so that you can build a relationship of your dreams. So
Yeah.
we out of here. Make sure that you are having the conversation to share your needs with your spouse. If you need someone to help you, listen, this is what we do all the time. We help couples navigate and communicate without frustration and judgment, increase intimacy, and build the relationship of their dreams. So look for us somewhere around. You'll see a link for a discovery call. Set up a discovery call. We'll help you out with that. So we out of here, man. That's another Have a Conversation After Dark. I know it wasn't super juicy, but I felt like it was something that we needed to say
Right.
because there are a lot of needs that are not being met, not just sexual. And that's a big one, but there's a lot of needs that aren't being met. So make sure that you're having the conversation. Make sure you're intentional about increasing intimacy. Make sure you're intentional about learning your spouse. We out of here. For those of you who follow us, we'll see you tomorrow at 6 for Inside the Relationship. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.